And
Sure, whenever you're ready.
okay, go ahead with that, and I'll get the live in a minute. Go ahead, Robin.
Good morning, guys. We want to welcome you on our first day of a new season in our lives. We've been hosting these weekly business briefings since March of early of 2020, and as we move towards March of 2021, I see a golden path. While there may be some challenges, I think that we as a team with the administration will be able to succeed. This is Robin Billups. I'm the connector with the Billups Group. I'm a consultant working in the compliance and diversity space. I have with me today my co-host and our good buddy co-host, Greg Sneed. We're missing Stephen, and Stephen must be doing something important, but he's here every day and then every week. And then we also have a group of regulars who are here. Bianca, thank you again for always plugging in. Colette is here with PCR. She's going to be providing us with some updates. And we have a host of new folks who've joined us. But more importantly, I also want to congratulate Faye Bernard, and I can't see her last name. She was the first person that logged in today. So we always want to catch the first person that dials in. And we have a wonderful guest speaker who's going to be speaking with us in a few minutes. But I'm going to turn it back over to Crystal so she can do her thing and we can get started.
Thank you, guys. Welcome to the community briefing. We are here to help bring information to our much needed information to our community from the stakeholders and the individuals that are sitting at the table while the plans and decisions are being made. So today we're very honored to have Mr. Robert Sausedo coming in from Community Build to talk community build to talk about what they're doing and how we're going to recover. And also they've been doing some amazing things far as the pandemic and making sure our community is well taken care of. So we want to welcome all of you and thank you for participating and joining us every week. And with that, let me see, I'm sorry, Stephen usually does the bios, but maybe we'll just have you tell us all about yourself. How about that?
Yeah, sure. You want me to
Welcome
start
to the
now?
show. We're glad to have you. Yes, go right ahead.
So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. I'm a president and CEO of Community Build. I became the president here in April of 2019, and I'm just feel so blessed to have taken on this position. Prior to coming here, I was a deputy for agency and review for LA County Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, and I did outreach, some economic development. The project that you see Metro building with the school at Vermont, Manchester, with the boarding school they're going to do there, and the housing was a project that I was deeply part of, not only as a staff member there, but even as far back as 26 years prior, when we were looking at design guidelines and what's going to be there on the corner. So I'm really excited about what's happening there. Prior to that, I spent many years in what's now called the green space. So I worked for organizations like Johnson Controls and Snyder Electric, and was the face of Johnson Controls at one time for energy efficiency projects, starting in Los Angeles and then throughout the country. Had some national roles, and then of course managed a small financial services boutique firm that was family owned. So sort of corporate serial entrepreneur, now nonprofit. And how I landed here, interestingly, my goal was to finish the term with the supervisor and then go to Sacramento as a senior vice president of government affairs for the insurance industry. That was something I wanted to do to round out my career. And God saw it fit that I would come here. I believe that God sent me here to bring out the greatness in the people, both the employees and the services that we provide to the community. And I'm just so pleased at how we're able to continue to bless people in a time that through different resources and programming. In the last year and a half, I've grown Community Build from about 3.6 million in programming to about 6.9 this year. So we've more than doubled our revenue and programming opportunities across many different services. Community Build is a 28-year-old legacy African-American organization. We provide services throughout South Los Angeles. We are principally known for the work we do with respect to the Mayor's Grid program, which is a gang and youth reduction program. We have two components of that. One is prevention and intervention. And we have a very solid team with Kathy Houston Berryman, who's our Vice President of Prevention, and Leon Villette, who is one of the godfathers, if you would, of intervention on our. So we've got a really great team there. We're also housing. So we are the first AAA project to come online along with our partner. And we have 62 units of permanent supportive housing located at 88th and Vermont. And our second location, which is a 10,000 square foot building where we have a youth center there. And then soon Sharp Mental Health Services will occupy half of the space on the second floor. And then to be announced later, part of our strategy going into the next 3 to 5 years is there are a number of nonprofits who have fallen into financial peril, if you would. And so what we're doing as part of our strategy is we are absorbing or merging with some of those organizations. And with that, we'll be building out their assets for additional housing. So we will be completing our first merger within the next 60 days. And with that will be enough space to build about 90 units of additional permanent supportive housing. And then we have a social enterprise platform. Unfortunately, COVID interfered with my plans last year, but we are fully planning to launch several social enterprises because I don't want to be totally reliant on government money. And so we'll be doing business startups. Some of those will be in the form of partnerships, and some of those will be in the form of wholly owned subsidiaries of Community Build, and some of which will be to be announced in the near future. One is technology based, and I'm real excited about that. So we are currently testing digital bots in our back office, something I brought on board about a year ago. And as soon as we flesh out a few things, that will be productized, and we'll be launching CBI Tech, which is a firm where we will sell that value proposition to other nonprofits and two other key markets. And I believe that will be the service that will endow a Community Build. So I could go on and on about all the stuff we got. We got a lot going on. People ask me how you do it, and I said I don't require a whole lot of sleep, and I just have an incredible staff of people. We have 68 permanent employees that work for us, and since October we onboarded through the CARES Act and the census program over 600 people to work for Community Build, as well as some of our partners as part of the CARES Act opportunities for employment. So I was very pleased that in the latter months, there are a lot of people who are out of work, as you well know. There are a lot of, in particular, people who are being released from incarceration, prison reentry. And so in December, we were able to, in November, we were able to onboard about 80 reentry individuals who really were released. And I talked to you about some public policy stuff we're looking at in the future with no resources. And so all of them were able to make between $4,000 and $6,000 between November and the end of December, many of whom paid up their housing for several months. And so we're constantly looking for ways to help people. And, there's a balance with me because I do come from the private sector. So I look at things from a very different lens, and I'm very bullish about the things that we're going to do. We also use the business improvement district in Leimert Park, where we have a cleaning crew. And unfortunately, that's been short funded this year because of people not paying their property taxes. Some folks are falling behind, but we're going to continue to raise money for the business improvement district and make Leimert Park the crown jewel that it is. I see Linda Sams on here with the LA South Chamber. They're doing great work with the vendors and outreach with the community, with the chamber, of which we are a member of their chamber, as well as the Crenshaw Chamber. So a lot of good people I'm looking at on here today. And the whole idea that of my platform is about collaboration. So one of the things that we've done since March, when COVID first started, is we launched something called the Community Response System of South Los Angeles. And while it's a project of Community Build, it's actually a collaboration of over 32 nonprofits across this city. And you don't know this, so I'll share this. I'm also assistant pastor at Los Angeles Community Church. And I was on my way to a funeral on March 13th to help officiate. And on my way there, as you recall, the lines were backing up and people were panicking, overbuying toilet paper and everything else, right? And on the way back, when I left the funeral, I could see the lines were wrapped around the block. So I started to pray. And I said, Lord, just tell me what you want me to do. And by the time I got back to my office, I had a plan that he gave me. And I got my assistant and said, look, I need you to call these organizations. They're going to be mad at you. You could pull them out of if they're on vacation, if they're in a meeting, find them. And I need them on a call at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, which is Saturday, March 14th. That started the community response system of South LA. Originally, it was called the South Los Angeles Community Response System, but that acronym spelled slackers. So we had to switch it around. And you have to pay attention to these things, right? And what I'm feel so blessed by is that we have been able to get nonprofits who've never worked together before to come to the table and share resources. And that's what this collaboration is about, is to say, some of us have more resources than others. We've been able to fund people's activities. We've been able to send teams. Just this past weekend, we worked with Dr. Bailey at the Crenshaw Mall with her Martin Luther King Day of Service. And I had over 30 men out there. It was just a beautiful thing to see the sea of African-American men in a voluntary capacity. It was wonderful. And so that's part of the Crystal Network, right? And what we do is share resources. To date, the network itself has distributed over 10 million pounds of food since March of 2020. We continue to operate at high levels of distribution of food. And those who need help, we'll send volunteers if they're available. And we'll also provide funding as it avails itself to us. And this particular program, when we launched it, and by the way, my partner on this is LA Metro Church's Lamb Shore Branch. And when we launched this program, I did not want to go to government for two reasons. One, as you remember, no one knew what to do. And what we were able to identify is there is not a disaster response program in South Los Angeles in particular. But I stayed away from asking government for money because I wanted it to become its own animal, if you would. And I wanted it to become something that they would want to be a part of, as opposed to having them help launch it, because then you become part of somebody's political agenda. So we've been successful at that. And now we're at that stage where we're starting to incorporate folks. I had a 3-hour conference call Friday night with the American Red Cross, who is now ready to come into South LA and provide some resources. So we'll be partnering with them as part of this network. And what's beautiful about this is this collaboration. Although, as the leader of Community Build, we're overseeing it, it's not a community build thing. This belongs to all of us, anybody involved in the network. We all give input. We have an education committee that has helped a number of kids with tutoring and a variety of resources. We have a public policy committee, and I'll talk about some of those things in a minute. We've got a healthcare committee, right, that we're working on with Sylvia Drew Ivy, who's leading that up over at Drew. So again, just pardon my long-windedness, but it's just so much going on that we have to manage. And I'm literally managing the equivalent of 2 organizations right now. So that's the short and skinny.
Wow. You are quite busy, but awesome. And Robin and I and Greg and everyone that's been on this platform is a collaborative platform with the BBA and a number of other organizations here. And this is why this platform is here, is so that we can get the message out to our communities, and they can see you face to face, right? So, I mean, we're behind the doors in our doing whatever we do, and no one knows who's doing what, right? Because you're doing a whole lot, and a lot of us don't know all that you're doing. We just know that it's probably happening. And I think more so since we've been in COVID and everybody's been quarantined or safe at home, we really don't know what's going on out there. And so that was the reason for this platform. So collaborative working, and everyone on this platform knows I'm big on, we need to close the silos. In order for us to survive, we have to close the silos, and we all have to work together and collaborate together and do our part to make it work for our community. irregardless of what's going on in Washington, us as Black people need to work together. And so, fantastic. I take my hat off to
That's
you.
absolutely correct.
Yeah. So, so what are
Thank you.
what can we do, and how can we all get on board to help you do what you're doing? Recycling Black Dollars is nonprofit in the community, been here for 30 something years. We have a platform, a resource guide, and we're building a digital marketing platform with partnered with the Urban League, which should be launched in April. And it's going to create, for a better sense of word, a Black business mall for all our Black business owners and service owners and nonprofits and organizations, so that we can have a way to get outreach to our entire communities. So how can we help?
Beautiful. Well, so first thing I would say is the website, www.crssla, right? Some people call it CRISLA, others call it Crisis LA, crssla.org. Go there and you can register and become a member. We have a bi-weekly conference call with folks, and then we have a once a month call we're going to for executive directors to really do some high level strategic planning. And then think about it from this perspective. When we first launched this, we launched it on 3 principles. If in fact we had to go into a state of emergency that involved the National Guard, FEMA, or any other agency coming out, we inventoried our properties to see which ones could become medical triage centers, which ones could become distribution centers, and which ones could become emergency operations centers. With the idea that as the National Guard or any other public safety entity comes into our community, that they would work alongside the local nonprofits so that they understand the various ethos in each community, culture of care. So first adopt that statement, culture of care, into your business ethos, because this is what it's about. Ideally, we never got to the point where we needed to bring the National Guard into our community for anything. But had that happened, we had places for them to go and station, and then work with folks like us on this call, so that they're not over policing or over enforcing, but there's true collaboration going on. So that's the first thing. So I'd encourage everyone here to become a CRISLA member, stay informed, become a part of those update calls that we have, and of course the calls for assistance. Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation is one of our partners. They're working with the small businesses on funding. We have Urban League, Mike Lawson. His official title is Ambassador Lawson, you know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ambassador Lawson and I, he's who I refer to as our wisdom partner. And let's not forget this. There's a lot of legacy groups, RBD, Urban League, Community Build, and others, Brotherhood Crusade. All of us are partners in this together. And the reason this legacy is so important, and I often say this about Urban League, there's not a person on this call right now that either themselves or a family member has not had an Urban League experience. If you grew up in Los Angeles between 1970 and that, Urban League did something for you or your family. So I am deeply committed to making sure they continue to be successful. I work very closely with Mr. Lawson. He is one of our, what I call our wisdom partner. He brings a lot of mind share and talent, and helps me think through some things. So it's just like, there's a lot of very great thought leaders here. And we got to bring those ideas, and that's what's helped this thing grow the way it has grown. Recently I see Jason Lewis is on here. I was so impressed with Jason. I met him on the street recently. I'm just so impressed at his hustle. I come from a sales background, right? Business development. So I love hustle. I'm so impressed with his hustle, how this man is distributing his papers, he's writing stories, he's interviewing people. And so we have to support people like him to make sure that he is successful, because he's helping paint the picture, if you would. He's helping, I think that's a cue, probably need to mute yourself, sir.
Yeah.
He's helping get the message out in the community. And people like RBD, the work you're doing, this is an opportunity for us to really take this legacy of leaders, these people that a lot of folks don't know about. I've been in a long time, but there's people here that the community need to become familiar with, because these are resource folks. So I just want to make sure that we understand, and it's not a me thing, as Herb Weston used to say, it's a we thing, right? And so just continue to push that goodwill and that good work out together, and work with Chrysler to build this. So where we're going next with Chrysler is, I'm sure you've heard the term, we're building the plane as we fly it. That's essentially what we've done. So we've taken a step back the last couple of months, said, okay, now we're at a place where we can put some structure around this. And so we're putting in some additional structure around how we resource, how we share information. We have an executive, not executive, we have a general manager that I hired named Leslie Matthews, who's now running Chrysler for us, because obviously I can't run two groups all day. I want to be around for my grandkids, right? So we got someone on board to do that. But all of you, I see Greg, you're out there pretty regularly, your faces are familiar. I just call on people as I see them, because you need to understand the importance of what God gave you, the importance of being able to connect people. That it's, some people, there's folks that get out here and they want the glory. What I love about this call, because I'm familiar with each and every one of the people I see here, there's not a glory seeker on this call. You all are about the business of helping our people. When I saw, share a short story with you, we were in negotiations with the city to do a $15 million grant for the CARES Act program, which would have been the largest temporary hire program in the city of Los Angeles. And this is right around the election time. The city at the last minute decided to go a different direction. But in preparation for that, Community Build interviewed over 500 people and had them ready to go to work on November 1st. Now imagine being in a position where you got to look those people in the eye and tell them, I'm sorry it didn't happen. I refuse to do that. I saw the hope in these people's eyes. So as a CEO, there's a lot of you on here, there's times when we have to get away from the programs, because we do have to have ice in our veins at times to make tough decisions. But because I was involved in that, I became very compassionate, empathetic to the people, because they needed these jobs, and particularly our reentry brothers and sisters that needed some help, and our reentry seniors that needed to be brought back into the marketplace. So we worked diligently to get work with the city and the county for an alternative. And as a result, those folks got a chance to work through the end of the year in the way that we did. So a lot of hard work, but it was about collaborating. James Rope did a job fair at our location, and we literally hired 30 people with 5 different employers on site the day of the job fair. And this was just God answering my prayers. Like, what are we going to do, right? And so I would ask each of you to lean on your faith. I know we're not in church, but we are the church, right?
We are the
and
church.
We're beyond the 4 walls. And so each of you should lean on the gifting that God gave you. Each of you should lean on your faith, and also recognize that, I don't think there's anybody on here that doesn't have a paycheck, but there's a whole lot of folks out there hurting, and we got to keep them lifted in prayer. And we have to, there is no time for us to rest. We are still in this pandemic. In the coming weeks, you'll be seeing some conversations about encouraging our people to get the vaccine. I got the vaccine. I'm going for my second shot next week. But before I start promoting that, there's some homework to be done around precautions, which vaccine is best for whom, because now there's 3 or 4 companies. There's a lot of conversation needs to take place, because if each of us are going to put our face to that conversation, we have to do it in a way that doesn't hurt us later if something's wrong with this, right? Mm-hmm. And so, because we are trusted partners in the community. And so there's testing. So I'm looking to open up a couple of testing sites here in Lamert, probably at our facility and a couple of other places, working closely with our partner, University of Southern California, who helped the Chrysler movement, Crisis LA, be successful with a grant. They've given us 12 interns, and they've given us all the resources of USC to pull this off. So I was just on the phone with them this morning, and we're looking at some potential vaccination sites across South Los Angeles in particular. So a lot going on in addition to Drew University.
So Robert, how are you guys looking at disseminating that information and and how soon in regards to the vaccination. You obviously know if we're Black, we have major reservations about anything, even though it will save our lives, but we also have been used as guinea pigs in the past. So how do we, what is the information and how is it going to be disseminated, and how are we going to get our people to embrace it and be able to save themselves and their families?
Well, let me be perfectly candid. One of the things that I'm working on right now is there's not a person on this call whose reputation doesn't mean something in our community.
Yes.
And so let me go to my business world right now.
Okay.
If you're going to use my likeness or Greg's likeness or Monita's likeness or anybody on this call, then their organizations need to be compensated for that.
Okay.
There's marketing money to talk about the vaccine. So I am leading a movement with some leaders to have that conversation about where are the marketing dollars for this? And if you're going to use the strength of our voice and influence, we need to be paid for that.
I agree.
Irrespective of the fact we're in a pandemic, and I won't be guilted in the fact, well, you gotta do this just to help the people. That's fine, but I also know there's a $200 million marketing budget out there, and we need a piece of it. That's how we empower our people economically, right? Because there's not a person on this call that does not have influence. We're working on that rather aggressively, and more information to come. You should, when you join the Crystal site, what's good about it, we also have a Facebook community. It's called Coronavirus Community Response System of South Los Angeles. You go to that site, there's constant posting there and constant posting on the website. It's an open platform on Facebook, so you can share information. And then as members, as the information comes out, we push that out to our membership so they can post things to their community. So the idea is, the concept is this: if you think about AAA, right? When your car breaks down, you call AAA, they're going to find a tow truck service for you, or key service, whatever service you need at the time. That's what CRISLA is we are, in addition to providing resources, we're sort of like the AAA of directing the appropriate resource, et cetera, and making sure we link up with them in such a way that our entire network has access. So there is no holdback here. So as that information, I don't have a date yet on terms of vaccinations. I know, just continue to look for it. And what I'll do is, Crystal, I'll make sure that as that information avails itself to me, that Ann specifically sends it to you and folks on this call so that you have it. So you'll have two platforms to receive it in. And so that's the first step, is to do that, right? There'll be a media campaign, I'm sure, through some of the radio stations with Dominic DePrima on Front Page and some of the other hosts, KGLH being our radio station that we are partnered with, and others.
Okay, that's fantastic. And you definitely can use this platform. We could have, updates. So we have right now, Colette from PCR comes up every week. She gives us an update. So that, and this, I broadcast this show on Facebook, but I also boost it on Facebook, and it's on YouTube. And then I have another show on Friday called The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. So I kind of have a nice little media presence. And so we definitely look to using us. There is a question from Carmen Jones. She is with Black Women for Wellness, referring the crises of Black young men and gun violence. Is in 2 weeks there has been 60 plus shootings. Do we have any inroads to Measure J funding?
So here's what Measure J is working its way out right now. Just passed, that measure just passed. We are looking at it closely as an organization as we expand the service opportunities that we have and for the network. But tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I am having a press conference with Chief Regina Scott and several intervention agencies to talk through the fact that these 60 homicides, since January 1, 60 homicides. So wow. If you think about the work, and it just unravels our work, right? If you think about the work that's been done with the intervention community, we went from 1,200 homicides a year to just under 300. And we stayed flatlined at that, with Southwest being the safest area. And of course, not to brag, but that was because of our interventionists and community building and the work that we do, and very close working relationship. But because of this recent uptick, what we know is there's a tremendous shortage of intervention workers. You know, there was a time when WLCAC had, a huge number of intervention people working in Watts. Now they only have one. So when we begin to look at why this is happening, there's no real opportunity. So there is money on the table that's coming from, that's been discussed with the city in terms of redirecting some dollars from LAPD. We will be talking about that tomorrow at our press conference. I won't invite you all to that because of COVID. I would love everybody on this call to be standing with us tomorrow, but because of social distancing and limitations around that. So I'm limiting the participation in that to the key leaders in the community and then our intervention community to begin to work towards addressing that. And then, of course, Measure J, as it avails itself to the community in terms of how they're going to deploy that. They're still working through those issues, folks that manage that. But we're going to play a role in that as well and help along with some of our other partners in the network. If that answers your question.
I believe that does answer the question. So it's a live press conference and not a virtual. Because I think that was the next question. Is there a link for the press conference?
You know what I'll do? Thanks for bringing that up. Let me see if I can have my assistant set up a Zoom that's running simultaneously, and we'll try to work that out. It'll be in our little pocket park that we have here. Let me work that out.
Okay, that'd be fantastic. You are doing a lot, but you can't do all this alone. And that's the one thing that as a community, we all recognize, but I think we are ready to step up and really work together. And as you said, put our egos to the side, because it's really about our people and how do we help us thrive once we get past this COVID environment. And I think that's vitally important. Robin, did you have a question?
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Robin.
Robin, yes. Rob, he's a Rob, I'm a Rob. Robert, I don't have a question. I wanted to entreat you about this idea of merging and acquiring these existing nonprofits that have historical work that they've done, but because of COVID or mismanagement or what have you, work still needs to be done. So I want to entreat you for that, because I think that's what tends to happen. We allow these organizations to die out, and the work that they have been doing dies with them. Right. Secondarily, I also wanted to entreat you around the idea that everybody needs to be rehabilitated, whether you've been locked up or not. You know, the mentality that has been created amongst people of color trying to move up the ladder. You know, the training and the assurance that you provide to those individuals is God's work. It really is God's work.
Yes.
Because to your point, your early on point, all of us were sent here with a set of skills and our own personal skill set that he gave us. And so the idea of growing that and supporting that, and then this piece about dealing with the seniors who are having to re-enter, you know, in a very, very latter part in their life. You know, here I am, you know, I was laid off at one point, and it strictly was either ageism, racism, or sexism, you know, one of them three, and having to be able to regroup. So I just wanted to entreat you, but I also wanted to ask a question about the green space piece. I think that is very, very timely as far as what opportunities could be out there for these businesses, and even speak to the fact that one of my biggest things is you don't have to be the prime supplier. You can just be the subcontractor working for a prime supplier. So can you speak to where that green space experience that you have, what are you going to do with that?
So let me share with you. Right now, we are in conversations to put together something with an organization to be named soon around building a platform for training people to put in these electric charging stations. Mm-hmm. We're looking to play a role in that, and you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. Let me back up for a second before I talk about the green space, because here's the problem with the green space in our community. Black folks and Latinos don't care about green. They're surviving, right? So when we talk about the environment, you know, it's like, I was just having this conversation with someone on their strategic planning, and I said, you've got to put this in such a way, how does green impact our community? It impacts it by way of jobs. It impacts it by way of health, dealing with health disparities. we talk about electric vehicle charging stations, reducing emissions and what that really means, and so on. But let me back up, because there's something you all, if you don't know about this, I'm gonna share some information with you and then where we're going with it. The County of Los Angeles has an edict. So in 2000, I want to say 18, there was a study done about the spending at this County of Los Angeles. They spend about $32 million a year. Of the $32 million a year, they recognized that they could do $4 billion worth of spending with local small businesses across the county. So their aspirational goal is to get to the 4 billion. Their immediate goal was to get to $1 billion in spend. The average contract is $186,000. Okay. Now, so what I would encourage each person to do, the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs oversees that program, and you need to get certified with them. And by the way, even social enterprises and nonprofits are the only organization, last I checked, that has a social enterprise component. They have a veteran component to that, and I believe women-owned, right? Of course, because of Proposition 209, they can't do race-based contracting per se, right? Talk about that in a second. But I would encourage you, if you have a business or you're on this call or you have a membership, every one of your members who has a business should get in the system. Each department is required to have an advocate. So you're going to need to streamline your business in such a way that you have a true value proposition. And in the future, I'd be happy to hold some seminars with you guys on this, on how to approach government contracting, at least at the county and city level. It's very important because this is how we change the game for wealth creation. Now watch this. Proposition 209, when it went into effect and got eliminated race-based contracting and changed the California State Constitution, which is Section 31A of the Constitution that says no race-based contracting, right? What that did, just in state contracting alone, we have lost, people of color have lost the opportunity to participate in over $20 billion worth of contracting since 209 went into effect. 209 had the exact opposite effect it was intended for, which was mostly companies managed by white folks and or run by them are getting the contracts. So we were sort of, and if you look at the statistics, I'm just talking about the state of California, it also applies to Metro, it applies to LA, the county, et cetera. So what companies or organizations started doing, I think Metro is one of the things, organizations that took the lead on this, is they started looking at disparities in contracting. And so there was some language in 209 that says, if you can prove disparity in contracting, you can do race-based. But here's what's happened with public procurement departments. It's too convenient and easy for them to say, because of 209, I can't look at your race, right? But here's what hasn't happened. Any contract that gets let that has a 1 penny of federal money, federal law supersedes it. They have to consider race-based. But what they've done is they've gotten people to believe that they can't. Caltrans is the biggest organization that takes advantage of that, right? Of saying because of 209. So there's a conversation I'm having to continue. You know, we just lost the ballot measure on Proposition 16, right? Which was to overturn this. And so I'm working on a strategy from a public policy standpoint with a group of folks that I work with to begin to look at how we have this conversation. And I don't want to call it affirmative action. We got to get rid of that term. It's a bad word in some spaces. We need to talk about it as an equitable or approach to everything that affirmative action touched. I believe there's a strategy to deal with this. I want to say publicly what that is right now I'm working on, but there's a role for each of you to play in it. We have to keep that conversation alive and in the face of local leaders. But for those of you that don't know it, the data is there to prove disparity in contracting. So if you're going after local government contracts and you can prove there's disparity in contracting in any agency, they have to consider race-based contracting. So this is something that we as a group could take up to begin to put this at the forefront of some folks in the legislative body. I believe Section 31A has to be changed in our state constitution because we've proven when you don't have programs like this, Black folk don't get contracts. Latinos don't get contracts. Even the Asian community has been impacted by this, right? So I want to have another conversation about this with you.
Mhm.
This is part of the public policy strategies we're bringing on board. You all are the first to hear about this. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I have just recruited and brought on board Albert Lord, who was a staff member for Herb Wesson. He will be coming on board with us as our government affairs person Monday of next week.
Awesome.
So, and part of the reason I'm doing that is because I am serious. I'm a public policy junkie, right? When I go to the, when I go to the, this is a bad analogy, but it's probably the best one I could describe. The state legislator to me what a crack house is to somebody who uses crack. I am just a lot. I don't need to sleep when I'm in the state legislature, right? Because I understand policy, I understand how to drive this. And so what we're going to do is community build. One of our arms around public policy is to drive conversations and then have it lead to policy changes that benefit our people. Because if Black lives matter, then we have to make it matter for Black lives, right?
Yes. And one of
And
the
so,
things I think I had this conversation with Robin, I look around at other organizations, the or other groups, the LBGQT and the Jewish community, and they're well protected, well insulated. Anytime you go after them, there's policy around to protect them, but there's no policy to protect us as Black people. And if we're talking about homicides and being killed by police departments and police, and what we saw, what we've been watching for the last 4.5 years with all the racism that has just gone awry, and it's not going to go away just because Trump is no longer in office. It's going to still be here. So we definitely have to create some sort of policy that makes us a protected class of people, so that when you come after us, we have protection. Because right now we're standing out here unclothed, so to
right,
speak.
right. And to that point, when you consider that conversation, so there's the low hanging fruit issues, and I think in the last decade we've gotten stuck dealing with low hanging fruit because it's so important to our community. But we've got to go back to mind share like we have right here and being very strategic. One of the things my family accuses me of is I give people two options. It's either yes or yes. You determine the mood of yes, but it's going to be yes, right? And that's how we have to organize, is that when we approach these issues, we have to be so strategic about it that and use data. The interesting thing about this is the data is there. We have to do a better job of mining it, understanding what it means, and then applying it in such a way that it drives the kinds of policies that we want. And this is part of the business ethos I'm bringing into community build, because I have stretched our staff to levels that they never thought they would be stretched to. You're no longer just a programming person or an interventionist. You're actually a thought leader when you work here. Every one of my employees was required to read, I don't have it in here, the book, Start With Why. It's required reading for our organization. And the other thing that we have, and it's a great book because you got to know your why, right? The other next read we have is right here. You should have every one of your members of your organizations reading this book called Blue Ocean Strategy, right? So imagine in the sea of red where we all compete for the same dollars. You have to identify within that sea of red, where is there a blue ocean or a niche? How do you flex your business? Because look, we're right on the precipice. Don't think because we just had this change in government, we're going to be faced with a downturn in the economy. But how do you transition your business strategy to meet where we're going with the down economy? And the good news is, because we just came out of 2008, we have some data that shows what industries survived well, where the opportunities were, and maybe people need to shift their thinking around those areas. Follow the trends in the Wall Street Journal. This should be your daily read.
Yes.
Because it's not about the news. I care less about the news, but when the president comes out with their annual address, right? What gets missed in our community is when the president says we're going to invest more in military and aviation. That should tell you right there, I need to shift my business to see how I can play in that space. Because what he just did is laid out a plan of where the money's going. You got to build that kind of moxie in your listening. And this is what we can do as thought leaders, is to begin to challenge people to do that. One of the people on this call that I think is very good at that is Bianca. She is like, she knows how to press you in a
Yeah.
way that you thought I don't pay attention, but I do. Press you to think beyond what's obvious,
Yeah.
right? And that's how you find the why. So COVID, as disastrous as it's been, there's always, and it's going to sound terrible. So this is the for-profit side of me, right? There's always opportunity in pain, and we have to not yield to the pain, but be on the constant search for the opportunity. And sometimes that means we shift to something dramatically different.
And
Right?
I would even
And
add on to that, Robert, that as painful as the last 5 years has been with the Trump administration being in our leader as per se leadership, I think people are more in tune to what's going on in the news and politics, understanding policy, understanding the Constitution. They're having daily conversations we didn't have that. Even when Obama was elected, we didn't have those conversations. So we're having these, what happened here and why, and then going in and researching it, why, to stay on top of what's happening. And I hope, because we have, a saner individual in the White House, that we don't lose that we continue to ask that question, why, and most importantly, how do we change the current situation of Black people? I'm not concerned about anybody else right now. How do we change? We cannot, we're at the cliff right now. And if we don't make a major, a mindset shift, we're not going to survive this. And our children are not going to be able to survive this. Now, forget us. Our children are not going to be able to survive this.
right. Crystal, you bring up a good point and some more data for you. By 2030, the African American community across this nation will lose 4.5 million jobs to artificial intelligence and technology.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, when our kids say, I want to go to college or I want to be trained for something, how are you watching trends? And what's the big growth areas? We know infrastructure is one. Technology will continue to be one. We know there's in the space, that's where the development areas are. And we have to start talking, we have to shift our skills and make them relevant, even in our age group. So there's a conversation for Generation Z through baby boomers on how we stay relevant in the marketplace. This is a very real concern, right? Because when those jobs go away from the service industries, which is where we spend a lot of our time, and then for those who work in service industries, we can't take that job, whatever the job is, whether you're the janitor, which is a very laudable position, I respect it, but you can't be stuck there. You have to have a plan to continue to upgrade your skills, and that requires sacrifice. There's not a person on this screen that hasn't sacrificed to get where they are, right? We've got to get back to teaching sacrifice to our businesses and our young people, because 2030 is right around the corner. Now, how do we position this group of people right here and your memberships to participate in the 2028 Olympics that's coming to Los Angeles?
Yes. How
do you do that, right? There's plans being laid out right now. Los Angeles, LA business, it'll come to me in a second, LACB or whatever. I'll send it out. They're working on a procurement platform now for small businesses to participate not only in the Olympics, but other government bodies. Mary's doing a phenomenal job with that. It's called Compete for LA is the movement. And so these are things that we have to begin to look into. And when you hear it, like this conversation, there's so much, if you talk to me long enough, you will find an opportunity, trust me. There's so much in my head because of the reading I do, the work that I do, the things I need to be, because I don't want to be one of those people that says, oh, we do that too. I want to be the thought leader. I want to be out in front of things. The reason we were able to make Crystal so successful is we stayed ahead of government. We stayed ahead of everyone else. And with the help of a colleague who I know from Homeland Security and giving me some assistance. But every person here has a responsibility to be that person who's leading the conversation in a productive, implementable way, right? That's what we have to be committed to. This old guard stuff that we've been doing, throw it down the toilet.
Right, we have to change the mindset.
Robert, you're using some of my most favorite words, prayer being one of them and implement being the other. And then thirdly, read. Here again, we tend not to read. People ask me all the time, how did you find out about it? It's the throwaway paper. You don't even have to be a subscriber to XYZ paper. And so again, I just want to entreat you for validating some of the things that Crystal, myself, Greg, Colette, Bianca, Coach K, these conversations that we're having, and we're putting some infrastructure around that. And the reason why we're inviting people in this first quarter to be on this weekly business briefing, because we want to find out what you say you do. We want to find out what you say your sweet spot is. And we certainly will be inviting you back to give us some updates. Because again, you're speaking the language that we speak. You're driving towards a trajectory that we've had this conversation amongst ourselves. And the other thing that I want to implore folks who are listening and the folks who dial in every week, you don't have to sell this group on what you're selling. We want you to come on here to tell us about what you're doing and how will you implement. Linda Sams is very good at, okay, so now what is that going to lead to? And where is that going to go? And who's going to benefit from that? And so again, we want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We need to get on your schedule again, because you got to come back and give us some updates. And yes. We have a few other people who we're going to we have to get our update from Pacific Coast Regional, because there's always something good going on. And I love what you said about following. That's my thing. You follow regulated businesses, you can find an opportunity.
That's right.
And we definitely are going to be part of Chrysler, and we want to know, where do we fit and how do we help? How can we use this platform to help? I think media is a valuable platform to getting our messages out to our community, and then how our BD can be involved as far as the digital platform. We want to make sure every Black business in the greater Los Angeles is listed in this platform, so we can't say we don't know where we are, but at the same time, we need training and workshops in order to make sure we're doing the business we're supposed to be doing, so that while we're marketing for you, you can provide the services and the customer service to service our community. We think that's very, very important. And so as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to join Chrysler, and then maybe we can have some conversation, Robert, on how we can fit in this platform, in the environment. I'm all about collaborative. In fact, one of the things that we've done as an offshoot of this briefing is to create a task force, and we have someone that we're going to be talking to. We've been talking the same conversation, so we truly want to be part of that think tank and to make an impact and a change. I think there's so many powerful minds right here just on this platform, in addition to what you're already doing. And we don't want to burn you out for your grandkids and your wife and your family, because that's important. We need you to be here.
But you know what? We're about the real work. And as I part, I just want to say this. First and foremost, thank each and every one of you for your patience and having me here and be able to share with you all that I've shared. I think a couple of great guests you should be considering in the future is there's a young lady by the name of Danielle Lawson. She's in her early 20s. She created something called the Black Dollar, where there's actually a value for that dollar, and she's looking at creating a cryptocurrency that associates with that. I'll get you her information. She's a phenomenal young lady. And then Dr. Robert Marshall from LA Community Church has a platform for training church leaders around missionary enterprise, getting in the economy of making church part of the economy. Phenomenal leader. He happens to be my senior pastor, a phenomenal leader in that conversation. Got his doctorate from Gordon Conwell in urban ministry. So another thought leader. I'll get you that information because I think it's part of the process.
You think that would be great in that can get a message out, please do. And like I said, we have this platform, and I have the Business Zone that broadcasts live every Friday afternoon at 3:00. And then this one's at 11, because media, I think Dr. Claude Anderson mentioned that when we're moving up that tier, part of the 7 steps is media is a valuable part. We can see that with Trump administration. He used the media and he used social media in order to get that message out to be able to garner 72 million people. And he used the media to do that. And sometimes the traditional media is not going to tell our story. We have to tell our own story. So that's what these platforms use. So please feel welcome to use it as you need it.
Thank you. Well, listen, I certainly appreciate. I have to hop to another meeting, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and you all be well and be blessed and stay safe. And Linda, you stay safe out there in Leimert Park, during this COVID time. I know you're out on the street doing what you do.
Yeah, and they all need to have their masks on over there.
I don't go to them super spreaders, trust and believe.
Yeah, because I go over there and there's no mask. That was the last time I went over there. It's like, where the heck are you guys' masks?
Right, right. Well, thank you. I'm gonna
Thank you,
sign
Robert.
off. God bless you all.
All righty. So
Take care.
thank you so much, and we'll be inviting you back.
Look forward to it. Take care.
All right, Miss Colette, can you give us an update? Guys, if you don't mind, we're gonna be over just a few minutes, but we think it's very important that Colette provides us with an update. I do know some things have been going on this week.
You know, I just wanted to share a couple of things. I'm sorry Robert got off because I wanted to find out about the vaccine. If anyone is teaching about the vaccine, I think it is critical for the small business community, frankly, that our community really needs to understand the facts on the vaccine, because in order for us to have business, we need healthy people.
Exactly.
We need healthy people to be able to go to work, and healthy people to be able to go shopping and to go and eat and do all those things. And so health is preeminent for us for economic recovery. And so, you know, I'm not saying you have to take it, but our community needs to be informed. And I think the business community really needs to be informed. So if there's anyone on this call that is, you know, an expert in the area, could teach on this area from a business perspective, I'd be happy to speak with you about maybe a special presentation. So
he did say that was something. I'll reach out to him, Colette, because he did mention in that when he was talking about that there's some things coming down the pike there, and he and making that available. But I'll reach out to him for that, and then anyone else that has. I think Robin's a friend that's the pharmacist. I think he probably has some information as well. I know.
Yeah, I just sent her a note, Lamont Gibson.
Okay.
Yeah. Johnson & Johnson is jumping in it, and I heard the other day that City of Hope is jumping into it. And so, but again, you know, our people are not part of the clinical trials, so we have no idea how it affects us and our chronic illnesses and so forth of that nature. So information is valuable. So we're going to let you turn it over to you.
So just really quickly, just remind everybody, PPP did open. Applications are available for that second round of funding. Make sure that you do get your forgiveness. I know my husband, for example, has submitted his request, and I've talked to other people, but they haven't heard anything back from the bank, except the bank has said it's submitted to the SBA, but you are still paying some interest on that while the forgiveness is being done. So make sure to evaluate these loans, but the PPP becomes a grant. It becomes free money, except for that interest. And so make sure that you evaluate that carefully as you go forward. And I won't cover all of this, just we do have PPP, that loan forgiveness. Make sure you get your money, the debt erased. That's the whole goal. That's why it was created. Erase the debt that you would have from getting that. Though just the one thing I wanted to share today is there's a new grant that I mentioned. It has not opened yet, but it's called the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. And there are several formulas I put in here, and I'll pull out the link and put that into the chat. But like I was going through last night, Barbara Morrison, Inglewood Playhouse, Nate Holden, Veterans Center, Actors Art Theater. Are there any other venues that need, and they may not be clients of ours, but the word needs to get to any shuttered venue operators and, you know, museums, motion picture, talent reps.
Are there any recording studios? Because I know I have a couple of people that, you know, they're trying to figure out how to get back into the swing of things.
You know, it's kind of interesting. I did not see that as a venue, but that is a great question to ask. And it might be in the FAQs here.
Okay.
So the grant hasn't opened yet. So you will find it at SVOG grant or SVO grant at sba.gov. So that's available. And there was a presentation, so I'll drop both of those in there. You can watch. It's like 15 minutes on what the grant covers. So
Okay.
if you know anyone, please make sure that they get that. And then for the other ones, I'm going to skip. Just a reminder that Super Bowl, so I know the Olympics came up today, that Super Bowl opportunity they're trying to get the diverse businesses in, that closes in a week and a half. So make sure that you are in there with your business and figure out how you can participate with a service or a product. And it's not too late, but go dig deep. Bianca, what are you providing? I want to know. Let me see what you got in that hopper already. Are you providing any cleaning products or anything already? Have you submitted for it?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right. It's a big opportunity. It may not be your ongoing business, your day-to-day business, but it could be a good special event business. So don't forget this, guys. This is, we say we want the opportunities, go for it, and get this business. All right, last thing, we have these resource webinars coming up. Get ready, get help, and apply for all of these opportunities that you guys have. Get your documents together so that you can get that PPP. We need the PPP in our community. So go forward and get it. And then also that grant for the shuttered businesses. That is free money, and it's a lot. It can be a lot of money. And so I encourage you to dig deeper on there, and please share that with other people that have live venues.
Someone's asking what was the link for the Super Bowl. I don't know if was there a link there for the Super Bowl? And can you send this over to me so I can send it out to everyone?
Okay, I will send that to you, and give me 1 second and I'll give you the link as well. Okay. All right, that's it for me, and I'll put that in the chat.
We so appreciate it, as always, such an informational powerhouse for us, and we appreciate that.
Know too, guys, that if you don't pick this information up on the chat box, just go to PCR's website. There is a dearth of information that's there, and you will have an opportunity to find some of these links that she provides us with the update on a regular basis.
Okay, and then we have the LA Collective Roundtable on Facebook, so please go join that on Facebook, and get some of the books that Mr. Sausedo recommended. Reading is a powerhouse of knowledge for us, and I every morning, that's the first thing I do, is go through all my periodicals that I'm subscribed to online, and I get the digital inputs every morning, and it's been very valuable. I learn a lot of information that's going on. So the more knowledge you have, the more power we have. Before we round out, I promised Mr. Q I'd let him give us a little short briefing on what he does, and please come back and please subscribe. And before Mr. Q, before you get there, the Black resource, the RBD resource guide that we're doing in collaboration with the Los Angeles Urban League is huge. It's going to be huge, and what we want to do is create this Black mall where all our businesses are listed, but there is a complimentary. You can list your business for free. All you have to do is go to that link that I put in the chat and just go in and complete the form and list your business, and it will go in the print guide, but most importantly, it will be in the digital platform. Some of you have already done it. Bianca, you've done it. Rochelle, you've done it. People need to know who you are and where you are and how to get to you. That's one of my biggest pet peeves for our African-American, our Black businesses, is that no one knows that you exist but us. And so we want not just our dollars, we want anybody's dollars. So if they're gentrified to our community, they need to know you live here and your businesses are here, and they need to support your business, or they need not to be in the community. But we need to make sure we have a central location. I can't tell you how many calls I get. Where do I find a Black limousine company? Where do I find a Black CPA? Where do I find this? Where do I find this? And if you're not listed anywhere, I have no way of referring you. And Jason said he's always looking for community stories to publish in the Los Angeles Standard newspaper. His information's in the chat room. So please, if you get in the paper, I think his very first edition, I was in that edition. So I was in his inaugural edition. Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for just being who you are. So Mr. Q, go away. Take yourself off mute.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. I'm Mr. Q, also known as Eric Quander. I own Quander and Son Construction and Recycling Company here in 29 Palms, California, here in the high deserts near Joshua Tree National Park. I'm the #1 mobile recycler in my region, and I have a business concept and plan. I have gained that position by one can at a time. I collect aluminum cans and plastic bottles and have a plan to generate $6 million to be redistributed to Black Americans. I'm so glad to be here, a part of this group. Philosophically, we're in alignment. The speaker that you had on earlier talked about Black people positioning themselves in the green space, the necessity to create jobs, and to create a cornerstone in emerging markets and burgeoning markets. My plan involves collecting aluminum cans and plastic bottles, redeeming them for the cash value, and then redistributing that wealth to Black Americans all across this nation. You can visit our website, www.wecanblackamerica.com, and learn how you can get involved. But I do have a couple of calls of action that you can join right now if you'd like to participate. First of all, visit our website and take the pledge. This pledge is a commitment for you or your organization to donate your recyclables to help build Black wealth in America. Next, you can purchase bags from our website. These bags can be used to store your aluminum cans and plastic bottles. We will have a process by which we will collect those materials from you. Those collected materials will be redeemed, and the monies will go into a Black institution, and an advisory council of Black financial professionals and elders from our community will help us devise a plan to redistribute that wealth. So I am here to entertain any questions or concerns that you may have. We're asking for organizations to host collection points and drop-off centers throughout the nation. We'll be having drop-off locations in Oakland, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., New York, Houston, Texas, Austin, just to name a few. And we would like you to get involved as well. So you can contact me directly at 760-553-3617. Again, that number is 760-553-3617. And you can learn more about me if you simply Google my name, Eric Quander. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm here to accept any questions or comments that you might have at this time.
Thank you so much. I'm going to reach out to you and see if we can get you on the business zone. So we'll have can dedicate that some time to what you're doing. I think that's pretty amazing. So I will reach out to you and we can talk about some opportunities because we always have young people, individuals wanting to start businesses, and there you go. Recycling is a big business and part of the Green Initiative. We want to thank everyone for participating on the program. Please continue to tell people. Obviously, a wealth of information is disseminated here, right? And we want to thank you. Linda, did you want to mention what you put in the chat earlier about the total experience?
Yes. Today is Thursday. Tuesday, I went on my walk and mentioned the total experience in my walk and reached out to a few friends. Hey, y'all, let's buy this one block, one piece of property at a time. 3 a.m. Wednesday morning, it was burned down to the ground. Half of it is burned down to the ground right now. So if you drive by Crenshaw and Vernon and you don't see the total experience next to Delicious, that is why. half of it was burnt down Wednesday morning at 3 a.m. So now I'm on a mission because I know that I'm a visionary. And I know that God gave it to me to go live the day before it was burned down so that I have the history of it and talking about it. So now my spirit is woke up. I done reached out to the Botox family and said, y'all need to release this property. Now it's just land. You need to release it to us as a community so that we can rebuild that historical landmark to us. I'm so excited about it because I knew that something happened that led me. And here's the cool thing about it. I generally don't walk that way. So I knew it was totally led for me to walk and be facing it and see a Concord sign on it, which told me, oh, this is not Botox anymore. This is somebody else. Well, come to find out, Botox daughter, Botox brother, or his father's daughter is handling the property. Anyway, it's still in the Botox family. And at the point that they're going to hold on to it to the train, which is right across the street, I'm going to build a campaign. No, y'all need to release this. Now it's just dirt to you, but it means a lot to us. So who with me? Whoever wants to join me on this campaign, I am serious. I'm going to get the total experience. Mark it this day, 1/21/21. The total experience is going to come back into our hands.
Yeah, and it might be-
Manifest that stuff right there, lady. Manifest. I'm got your back. You know
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And also, it's kind of interesting. There's been a lot of mysterious fires of late since January 1. And so they get their insurance money, and maybe there is time for them to step on away. But there's been a whole lot of fires. If you have the Citizen app, you see like every 2-3 days, there's a big building or something burning down to the ground. So
New York has specialized that for decades.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. It's a reality. So this might be the time. So you guys reach out to Ms. Linda, anyone this is the time. If we're going to take it back, we got to do it. We have to do it
Right down
strategically. Yeah. All righty, guys. Thank you so much for allowing us this extra 18 minutes. We'll see you next week. I'm not sure I can't remember who's on the schedule, but we do have someone. So have a great week. Be safe. Happy inauguration. The adults are back in control, but we need to be the adults in our environment because you're only going to go so far from the federal government.
That's right.
All righty, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you all for coming and sharing and supporting. We appreciate it.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. All righty, guys. Let me stop some.